Hello, hello. So we are in another podcast Gamagin on air today, and we call it as Goat, and we invite goats. Uh, so here we have today Paul Bowen, and he's another person that actually does not need intro at all. We know him from StreamElements right now, but also he is in the industry like since I think 2000, like literally. So guys, be careful. Welcome, Paul.
Hi. Oh my, good to be here. Very glad to be here.
So concept-wise, I would like to know more about yourself, like fully out of curiosity. It's been actually more than 20 years in the industry. Like, how was the beginning for you, and how was it shaping up? Could you picture it?
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky to get into digital and online relatively early, I guess you could say. So I started working for a online media buying agency back in 2002, which was just after the dot-com crash. Things were starting to rebuild after the dot-com crash, and I kind of luckily got into one of the only digital media buying agencies in London. Did that for a year. Decided that I didn't really like the marketing side of things, the buy side, and then switched over to the sell side. Everything at that point was desktop. All advertising was kind of in digital was really web marketing. There was no mobile at that point. So yeah, I kind of found this new world of digital advertising. It really wasn't anything like it looks like today. Everything was very nascent. Although some of the networks that exist are still around today. I mean, obviously Google probably the most notable, but there was no Facebook, there was no TikTok at that point. That was before all those networks. And my career has been one of mainly working for kind of ad networks, I guess you could say. So firstly, web ad networks. So I've worked at three or four of those. And then in 2010, I made the switch over to mobile, which was a just very opportune time to do that because the iPhone launched, I think it was in 2008. I think the App Store launched in 2009. So a year after kind of the App Store launched, game devs were building fast, in a very quick way, building games for the App Store, and there was just this burgeoning ecosystem of new content that was available to be monetized and new eyeballs. So I'd say kind of the stroke of luck for my career, if I look back at it, was kind of pivoting from web to mobile very, very early on and making a lucky bet, I guess you could say, on that platform because I don't think everyone at that point knew how big mobile was going to get back in 2010. Yeah, and then since 2010, I've worked at various ad networks, so Unity, Vungle, Liftoff, and now StreamElements. My original role in mobile was at TapJoy. I started the European office of TapJoy, who are now part of Unity and have fallen a little bit from where they were back in the early 2010s. They were a real force in user acquisition on mobile. Anyway, that's a brief summary of my career, but yeah, happy to dive in on any kind of specific area.
Yeah, that's solid. And actually, like concept-wise in the podcast, before diving in like specifically to a hot topic, I also would like to know a bit about you, like especially for the audience as well. Like when we see you everywhere, but like actually, who is Paul? Like, what are you doing? Like, overall.
Yeah, so I live in Seattle. I have a wife and three kids. Most of my time is spent either working or looking after my kids. Outside those two, I do quite a bit of yoga. I'm pretty much into that. Yeah, I mean that's kind of me. I studied maths at university 25 years ago, and I'd say that kind of informs a lot of how I view how I turn up to work every day. So I'm kind of very data driven and very logical in my thinking. Although every role that I've done has kind of been a revenue role, so working on that kind of the personable side of things is kind of where I've been focusing my attention over my career, just making sure that I am, you know, have the brand as well as the rigorous thinking behind kind of owning a revenue team. But yeah, that's kind of in a brief note who I am.
Yeah, that's cool. Like getting back to specific shots, like You actually well depicted how like it transitioned from web to today. But actually, we saw so many major things. Like I'm not even talking about mergers from AppLovin, Unity, and like today's world. We have been seeing this rewarded user acquisition networks rise. Especially, we were kind of close with you on that hot topic as well. And many more things are happening. Like, what would you say, like, first about the transition in like these, let's say, last 5 to 10 years, and second one would be coming to today and getting the flow free shot.
Yeah, I mean, so if we talk about mobile and kind of the trends that we've seen there, I mean, there was emergence of a bunch of different type of well, firstly, different types of content, I guess, so different types of games, and they've matured quite a bit. And actually, what we've seen is quite a convergence towards a number of different game types. Although I think more recently we're seeing more innovation in game types, mainly driven by the removal of IDFA from iOS. I think that has really allowed new content types to thrive. But on the network side, we had the traditional ad networks like Quattro and iAds, and a lot of those have now either been acquired or been gone out of business. Apple stopped offering iAd and now offer Apple Search. But I think if you look over the last 5 years, most of what's driven the change has really been well, two things. One, consolidation on the ad network side, and then two, the removal of IDFA. And I think that has led to a significant amount of consolidation in the more traditional ad format. So AppLovin is effectively a monopoly right now on mobile. There is obviously Facebook and Google, they have their walled gardens and TikTok as well. But if you look at kind of the ad network side, there's AppLovin. And then more recently, we have this re-emergence, I guess, of this incentivized space, which I find particularly interesting. And I find probably one of the biggest areas for kind of innovation within the ecosystem that we see. Yeah, so I think that's kind of some of the trends that I'm seeing, and really it's been driven by a lot of consolidation. Yeah, and mainly really driven by AppLovin's success on its mediation platform. They were just incredibly successful, and that has led to a lot of companies either closing their doors or being acquired because they can't compete in that space. So yeah, I think we're kind of left with, I really see three areas of innovation right now in mobile UA. One is kind of the ad network side. One is one is kind of the traditional ad formats. One is like the OEM space, which is mainly on Android, and then lastly is kind of the incentivized space. Yeah, that's how I characterize the last maybe 5 years of mobile user acquisition.
And basically, we still keep up this current trend for 25 as well. Obviously, like there looks like no major change for now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the next, when I was kind of describing my career, I think the big change for gaming really was like the mobile platform. Web gaming had been existing for quite a long time. There was downloadable games. They were the big thing in kind of like the mid 90s through to 2010. There was 15 years of web games, but they didn't really explode like they did on mobile. I think the question for game developers is what's the next platform? And I don't think we know quite what that looks like yet. I don't think it's clear that there is another platform that will emerge anytime soon. The mobile device is especially unique. You carry around with you all the time. People spend ridiculous amount of hours on every day. I'm just not clear that there's another platform that will ever exceed that level of kind of engagement. And if it is, it'll be plugged into our brains or something like that. Yeah, so I think if we think about what's going to happen to the mobile ecosystem, I mean, the past few years, game developers have been exploring going back to web just because there's more of a blue ocean there than the red ocean of mobile. And that includes kind of payments. So an emerging segment of kind of the ecosystem is web payments and web distribution and things like that. But I don't think it's clear what's going to happen to mobile. I think it's a very mature market right now, and I don't think it's clear. Apart from game developers continuing to innovate on content and game type, not sure what's going to happen in terms of real kind of exponential growth again. I think we're in kind of single-digit growth a year, not double-digit and more growth a year at this point.
Yeah, so true actually, especially since the beginning of last year, we have always been hearing this, let's call it just CPI issues, like everyone is complaining and you cannot cover that much from the ad monetization aspect as well. So like same issue for everyone, excluding like big IP games like Supercell, Dream Games, because they like basically broke it via IAPs. But when we come to UA, it's anyway expensive. So actually, I wanted to like ask you a bit deeper about this incentivized networks or like rewarded platforms, because the transition has been big over there, and today it's even like evolving. I won't call maybe every week, but every month we see some like some change. How do you feel, especially for the last, I don't know, 6 months maybe, especially?
Yeah, I mean, Incentivized has been around for a long, long time. I think it
Yeah.
started in Korea on web. I used to work for a company called Super Rewards that did incentivized ads on Facebook Canvas back in 2009, and that was really centered around virtual currency. So playing Farmville on Facebook, you can earn virtual currency. So this model has been around for quite a while. I think the emergence of misplay and the model of playing games for gift cards completely changed the game for this kind of space. It kind of removed quite a few barriers that existed in kind of the virtual currency reward space. So you didn't necessarily need to work with third-party publishers to gain supply. You could gain supply by doing user acquisition on Facebook and Google, and you could kind of gain an audience through that. And so what we see is a lot of companies trying to copy misplay. The
Yeah.
good news for those companies is it's not that hard to copy misplay. You can connect yourself to a gift card API, onboard a bunch of advertisers through. There are a bunch of third-party services that offer advertisers offers through API. You basically spin up a business within a couple of weeks. And that's what we've been seeing happening. A bunch of companies just getting funded or just doing it bootstrap. The low barrier to entry has seen a bunch of entrants in this space. Very similar to kind of what we saw early in mobile with a bunch of ad networks getting early into kind of monetization and UA. I think this space is even less defensible than that space. I think the gift card reward space is a tough space to be in. I think it's a great space because it's growing right now, but my sense is there's only a certain number of players who are willing to play games in exchange for gift cards, or that's their primary motivation. I don't know how many the total addressable market for like people who are prepared to respond to an ad on Facebook saying earn gift cards. I know that wouldn't be kind of my the primary reason why I wanted to
Yeah.
play a game. So I think that's kind of my concern on the space. I think it has to mature quite a bit. Potentially different use cases for where you apply these offer walls, I guess you could say. And there was a virtual currency one originally. I'm sure there's lots of different types of way of gaining customer loyalty or gifting money in some way that you could apply this business model to. But the gift card reward model doesn't feel to me like a particularly defensible one on its own. But yeah, it's a very interesting space because we've just seen so many companies emerge in this space over the last couple of years.
And actually, like for current markets over there, how would you, summarize with maybe one word, kind of like not sustainable or maybe already consolidated? How do you see for the future of it?
Yeah, I think we're going to see significant consolidation in this space. I think there are significant questions about the incrementality of a lot of these networks. As I
Yeah.
mentioned, the audience of people, especially in the US, but let's say tier one countries who are interested in playing games in exchange for gift cards, I don't think that's hundreds of millions. And I think so. My question is like, who are doing these? Who are actually engaging with these apps? And are they just moving from one to the next? And therefore, are these installs incremental or are they duplicate? These are also reasonably savvy people, the people who are engaging with these products. They kind of understand that, you can go from one to the next. You can obfuscate your IP address and you can keep doing the same offer on multiple platforms. If you go on Reddit, you see a bunch of people discussing kind of how you can farm money from these gift card rewards. So my sense is there's going to be considerable consolidation across these platforms. And as I said, I think probably the next step is where else does this model apply? I mean, for StreamElements, we allow users to support their favorite creator in exchange for taking offers. They also get paid an amount as well in gift cards. So we do a little bit of the gift card side, but the main motivation for us is for the users is earning, supporting their favorite creator. So like that's one application. Loyalty schemes are another application. So my chase points. Could I earn chase points by taking offers? So these are kind of other applications. I don't think they're as scalable or as quickly scalable as the gift card reward space. So I think we're going to see continued competition in that space and consolidation, and then at that point maybe some companies will start investing real resources in going outside this kind of gift card reward space. But it's a very interesting one for now, and I still think there's innovation even on the product side in this space over the next couple of years.
Actually, while chatting with you, Paul, I just realized that there are similarities between like the transition of rewarded networks, like incentivized networks, and hyper casual to hybrid casual. In the beginning, it was, hey, golden era, everyone should do hyper casual very quick, just double your money, invest in like so many players, so many publishers, studios, etc. Focus on there. And the competition going up and consolidation was there. And basically they found new ways to change it to, as we chatted, like hybrid casual, etc. So I think we will see many more of those maybe M&As or new trends, right?
Yeah, I think they both had. I think the commonality between hyper casual and this play and earn gift card reward space is the low barrier to entry. Hyper casual, it was just a very, very simple game. The low barrier to entry meant that anyone any game developer with a Unity account could spin up a hyper casual game within a couple of days, and it's very similar on this gift card reward side. So yeah, I think the mature is going to be different, but yeah, both spaces. Well, hyper casual has already matured into hybrid casual, and I think ultimately there's kind of pipeline there from players from hyper casual to hybrid casual to casual, and I think we'll see something similar on the incentivized side as well, for sure.
That's actually a clear answer, and I actually want to like, since you are expert more on the ad network, ad tech side, I actually would like to, again, out of curiosity, first question, could you check the latest updates on AppLovin yesterday and today, the news?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, firstly, if you're a short seller, if you're trying to, so the news is that AppLovin was accused of committing fraud, of auto downloading apps onto the device, which is impossible to do on iOS. There's kind of a way to do it on Android, but a user still needs to prompt the download. I mean, they were accused of fraud by short sellers, have a motivation to try and drop the stock price. I think there are valid questions to ask any ad network around how they leverage attribution, which was a part of the accusation as well. I think I've seen over my career attribution being used quite liberally in terms of when you fire different normally the click-through event. So often networks will fire that when a user views an ad versus when they click on the ad. We've been through this many times on mobile. This is not the first time that this question of when a different attribution event's being fired by networks. If AppLovin are doing it, they're not the only one. I've been at multiple networks that have been more liberal, I guess you could say, with attribution. I don't think it will impact AppLovin over the long term. It doesn't look like the authors of the report, I think Fuzzy Panda Research, fundamentally I don't think they understand the AppLovin business or mobile UA. There is an incentive for user acquisition managers to be liberal with attribution. They want to claim credit for their as much credit as they can for their campaign. So there's this tension between making sure attribution accurately reflects the performance of the campaign with the fact that user acquisition managers want to make sure that they can claim as much credit as they can for their work. So yeah, there are tools out there that measure incrementality. They're not as widely used as they should be. I don't think most game devs are currently only really using their MMP attribution as their methodology for understanding attribution. I think this is another good wake-up call that more developers should be using incrementality measurement to be able to understand the true value of their campaigns. I think AppLovin will be fine. This is a storm in a teacup, as we say. Yeah, and I think it's fundamentally a misunderstanding of what the mobile UA ecosystem is. And we were talking about kind of this gift card space and relating it to that. I'm not sure how incremental some of these solutions are on top of each other. Now you could say, well, it's a user churning through different products and taking the same offer on 5 different products is fraud. I mean, they don't have visibility into what people are doing on other platforms. So it's not fraud. It's just an incomplete ecosystem. It's an ecosystem that continues to need to mature, but no measurement is perfect, and no solution provider is perfect either.
Very well depicted, actually. Like the discussions were going on hot today, and like I checked almost all LinkedIn posts, also like major news from big media companies. And like what I realized, it separated the ecosystem to two, basically. Like one view is, hey, yeah, like it is like all the ad networks are the same, and like this shady thing is always same. Like one side is that, and another side is, hey guys, like use MMP, check it and make it solid, like and it's over there as long as it's like keeping things open for you, trying to do transparent, things should be just fine. So that was actually very interesting because, as you mentioned, not every developer or studio is aware of it, and I think like MMP is literally a must over there.
Yeah, I think the truth between those two positions is kind of in between. That definitely the networks try to be as aggressive as claiming credit for their traffic, I guess you could say. Also on the buy side, I think I always think buyer beware. I think the user acquisition managers have to ask the right questions, and I think making sure that they understand exactly what they're doing on every network is crucial. So yeah, I think the truth is somewhere in between. And as long as the buyer is clear on kind of what they're getting, and then two parties that have a contract, then I think it doesn't really matter. Yeah, like I don't think the short seller really understands whether the buyer knows what they're getting or not. They're just telling the market this is wrong. But if the buyer agrees to what they're getting, then there's nothing wrong about it.
Exactly. It's kind of like when back then when I was first in the industry, like I was questioning, okay, like when we use, for example, max mediation, they are kind of prioritizing their ad network. How is it? Wow, how does it look? I was trying to like understand where can I see their algorithm, like basically the code, which one is first, etc. And actually most of the answers are not available to you. It's like not that open. So then I just stopped questioning it.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading an article on someone who wanted to understand how AppLovin's Axon worked because they wanted to essentially verify it. These are black box algorithms. They are incredibly sophisticated. The ML, the data scientists who create them don't even really know how they work. Expecting them to publish something that a human could understand. Ultimately, you put your money in, as long as your kind of attribution is set up right, if you get out the results that you want, then you kind of have to be okay with that. They're not going to give you an explanation of how an algorithm works. And I think buyers are now more comfortable with that. I mean, Google and Facebook have been doing this for years. No one's asking Google and Facebook to explain their algorithm to anyone. No. I think it's these smaller networks, smaller in kind of air quotes because AppLovin's huge now, but when they transferred to kind of more manual bidding to more algorithmic bidding, everyone wanted an explanation for it. I remember it back at Unity in like 2016, 17 when I was there. There's no real explanation that you can give that will, well, firstly, there's no explanation you can give. And even if you could give one, it doesn't really matter because what matters is the outcomes. That really is how you're graded.
Yeah, especially when I was like chatting with so many publishers, mostly from Turkey, I was asking like, are you testing the mediations? How is it going, etc.? like the answer was always, yeah, we tested, and like the ones, actually most of them like are using the Max already. And like basically the answer, as you mentioned, hey, like we are using MMP, and as long as it's profitable and solid, we don't
Yeah,
care much.
exactly.
And yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
performance there.
the move from the waterfall mediation to kind of the header bidding solution has kind of taken all of those conversations away. Like there's very little you can do in terms of management now, so it's almost just set it and forget it now, and so we're not really having that conversation. And I think we're there on the UA side as well. The algorithm has won, and humans are just kind of just set it and forget it kind of thing. Yeah, I think the question that this AppLovin report was questioning was more really on like kind of the attribution side a little bit, and then also on this, they were accused of directly downloading apps onto the device, which, as I mentioned, that's not even possible. So yeah. Anyway.
And like basically, I of course we should also wrap it up slowly, but like I would love to finalize it, connecting it to, you know, earlier we were chatting about AppLovin monopoly in the current market, and like now we saw this report. How would you, you know, like just bring them together and maybe comment about this year? How would it shape up the close future?
How would I? So is the question, what are the trends for the rest of the year?
Exactly, including what we see in this report, would it affect, and how is the AppLovin monopoly, and like,
Yeah, I think AppLovin will continue. So I don't think this report will affect AppLovin at all. I think that AppLovin's, I mean, monopoly, it's not really a monopoly because Facebook and Google are out there, and as long as they're out there, and TikTok, I guess you could say to a lesser extent, then it's not a monopoly, but it definitely is a monopoly for kind of, or it feels like more of a monopoly for third-party monetized content, which is obviously what AppLovin focus on. I can see AppLovin continuing to firstly, they'll continue to dominate the mediation side of things, which gives you all the data you need to own the user acquisition side of things if you have the right algorithm. Looks like they have that. So I see them continuing to take share from Unity and from others, and continue to win in kind of the mobile, the gaming UA space. I think there are questions about what they do on the ecom side, but I think the question for publishers is what AppLovin's dominance in kind of the monetization space. What does that mean for their earnings? Because AppLovin now has an incentive, is needs to continue to grow their revenue. So will they continue to take more and more margin? And so I think that's one of the questions. One, what happens to the other networks that are in the max mediation? And two, what does it mean for gaming publishers who are monetized through max? I think more and more ecom in the space is going to be great, but do margins decrease because AppLovin needs to grow? First piece, and then I think I'm especially interested on the incentivized rewarded side of things that we were discussing. I'm very curious to see what happens with Misplay. They're launching an iOS product, what that's going to look like, what's going to happen with the other companies that are kind of competing at the top of the incentivized space. Incredibly interested to see what happens with measurement and attribution in this space, fraud. So I think that's the other big question of this year on kind of the ad network side. And then I'm just very excited to see what happens on the content side. We're seeing lots of more emerging genres, I guess you could say, coming out of more of the casual side of things. So I think it's nice to see a little bit more innovation on the gaming content side as well. Yeah, so I think they're kind of some of the trends for the rest of this year.
That's very well said, Paul. Like this podcast has been, even my expectations were super high, and like it's still above my expectations. So like really happy to make this conversation with you. What would you say to the industry? Final words.
I'd say keep innovating. I
Keep
think we went
innovating.
through. I think up till we were in a period there of a lack of innovation coming up until kind of COVID, and I'm excited to see now we have kind of version 2 of mobile and gaming, and I'm excited to see kind of what AI especially does for innovation. I think the barrier to entry on all tech has been lowered with kind of the AI that we have now available. I think we're going to see a lot more exciting and new innovation in the space. So keep innovating.
Keep innovating.